Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Movie Fandom Show. Today we're looking at 1983's comedy classic National Lampoon's Vacation. With me today is Linus Babcock.
Hi, Matthew. It's great to be here. I think my shirt's pretty appropriate for the movie, and I'm glad to talk about it.
Definitely. Okay, so the first question I'm going to ask you, Linus, is can you remember the first time you saw this movie?
Yeah, I think I was in about seventh grade, and I had seen the original Christmas Vacation before that, and like I didn't honestly know that there was a predecessor, but I saw it, and I honestly fell in love with it. The characters, I thought it was a great dynamic, and the road trip, I thought was great.
Yeah, for me, I actually first saw the sequel, European Vacation, which is my favorite comedy of all time, actually. One of my favorite movies. And then I saw this, and then Christmas and Vegas Vacation. I'm a huge fan of this whole series. To me, and we're going to take out that Ed Helms, whatever the heck they were trying to do. The first four, to me,
Yeah,
I mean, the first three, to me,
in
are
Vegas falls.
comedy. Vegas was it's
Mm.
better than whatever happened, but we're not going to talk about 2015. We're not going to talk about Christmas or European. We're talking about the original Vacation. So, Linus, I'm going to let you start off. What's something you want to talk about with Vacation?
Well, let's start with Holiday Road. I think that's just such a classic song that this movie it's known for that song, and it always puts me in it's a good mood song, and it starts off with all the postcards, and you hear that song, and I think you know the mood of the movie, and it's a great setting for the song in the movie. It just works very well for it.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely one of the best like opening songs because it sets the mood of or the tone of what the movie's going to be, which is Holiday Road. It's a family road trip. It's a family vacation. Even if you never have taken a road trip with your family, you know taking family vacations. It's sort of with the postcards of everything. It puts you right in there. So yeah, great point to start with. For me, I mean, the family dynamic in this movie is just
It's
insanely good.
fantastic.
I mean, Chevy Chase. I've always said that even though I think he gave his best comedic performance in Caddyshack, Clark Griswold is still my favorite character he's ever played.
Yeah, like his dynamic as a father, you can see that he's working, he has troubles, he's an everyman, but he's not like a great person, which is great about this movie. They don't portray the father to be some hero. He's very flawed.
Yeah, they betray him like he's a real person. Like you said, like he's on this mission. He wants to do this great thing for his family, which is, take him on this road trip so we can have all his memories, go to all his stops. But he's not the best person, and that's clearly seen with the, hot girl. Like,
The
Chevy
pool
Chase
scene.
plays a pretty dirty, rotten scoundrel in this movie series, but it to me, it never felt like it was stepping a line. It always just felt like that's kind of just the time. Like the '80s was a different time. Like, not to say it was accepted that he would do that, but like Clark never goes too far.
You
Like
never dislike the character.
exactly, he is a jerk sometimes. We see that he is a jerk, but he never steps into that boundary of being hated. You never hate Clark. He's kind of like if you see Back to the Future, like Biff. It's you never really fully 100% hate Biff. You kind of like to hate him. That's how Clark is sort of built to be. And then the rest of the family, we have Beverly D'Angelo, who is just
She's
she's
great.
really funny in this movie. What are your thoughts on her?
I think she's great. She's the perfect wife, and she's the perfect sort of foil to Clark in this movie. She sort of is like, she's the reason in this movie. She kind of sides with the kids. She's funny herself, and she puts up with Clark, but sometimes like she doesn't go all the way with him, which I think is great. And she gives a great performance in this
Yeah,
as
she's
well.
great, and like you said, she plays a great straight man to Clark's wild antics. Like, he'll be doing a lot of crazy stuff, and she'll be the one to be like, "No, we shouldn't do this." But she also has her great funny moments as well, which I like. And then we have the kids. Anthony Michael Hall plays Rusty, and the
They
daughter.
change
Yeah,
every movie.
yeah, they change every movie. The kids. I mean, they're I I would say out of all the movies, this is probably the one where I'm Vegas maybe as well, where I'm least interested in what's happening with the kids. But I think it's designed to be that way. Like you're more supposed to care about what Beverly D'Angelo and Chevy Chase are doing.
Yeah. I think my least favorite Audrey is the European Vacation Audrey. I know you said that's your favorite, but she just seems like it's such a different Audrey from what we see in like National Lampoon's Vacation. So it's such kind of a switch, but I think they still portray her well. So I think they wanted to do that, but it's such a
Yeah,
switch for me that I prefer this one.
yeah, I agree. It works for the movie, but when you compare the Audrey from European to the other vacation films, it it is very different and it is jarring. Mine is my favorite is actually from Christmas Vacation. I think that was she
Yeah.
had a lot of really funny moments and she felt like she kind of reminds me of my sister in Christmas
Yeah.
Vacation. So I
I
think
can see
maybe
that as well.
yeah. So let's start off at the beginning. So we have this great little comedic thing with Clark going to trade in his car for a new car. It gets squashed. The car that he was supposed to buy, that he had bought, isn't there. They try to rip him off. And they have this. This is the perfect scene to start because it shows how stupid Clark Griswold is, which is they bring out his squashed car, and there's this moment of he still goes to open the door.
Yeah. That scene is like I agree. It's a perfect way to start the movie. And that car, I think that car is so iconic to me. Every time I see that car on a road or anything, I'm like, that's the vacation car. Like on a level to me, it's almost like the Back to the Future DeLorean, where it's like it's so iconic to me that car.
And it's such a car that I don't think anyone in the right mind would want to buy. Like it's just this bright green wood paneled thing. Like if you want to be noticed, you drive a car like this. But it's the perfect scene to open because it sets the tone of like, oh, so this is the type of movie we're in. It's not some serious like kind of deep dive. It's a stupid comedy, and once you know that, you're able to enjoy it. You said you had another point you wanted to bring up.
Well, with the car, I think it was the one of the great scenes is when they're at the gas station and he can't find the gas pump and like it ends up being like on the hood of the car in some random place. So just the dynamic of the car, which they tried to do in the new vacation, which I don't really want to talk about it, and like it didn't work as well. But
I mean,
this car, it's so perfect.
yeah, that's a great scene as well when he's trying to find where to plug in the gas pump, and he looks at the woman with sort of a similar car, and she pulls off the license plate, and it's back there, and he just rips, and the license plate just goes flying. Like Clark is such an idiot, but it's great. So we start our road trip, and if I'm remembering correctly, one of the first places they stop is the Old West town. If I'm remembering correctly, that's one of the first stops they make.
Yeah, that's one of the first stops in the whole thing where he shoots the ear and the Audrey almost gets deaf. But Clark doesn't care. Like I wrote down a line from the scene, and he's I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, she's deaf, but like, what does it matter? We had fun. So that's like his personality. Like he just wants like a good time for himself mostly, which I mean, he wants a good time for his family, but you can see that there's lots of times where it's like, let's drive 4 hours to see the world's second largest ball of yarn, which is stuff his kids obviously don't want to do, but like he wants for them and he wants for the family, sort of.
Yeah, I agree. Clark, with this whole vacation, you get the sense of like he wants to have just as much as fun as they do, but he also wants to give his kids sort of an experience. I've always felt that like this is probably the same trip Clark took with his family, and he remembers it, and he wants to do the exact same thing. Like we saw, even though I didn't want to see the world's largest ball of twine, we saw it, and and the great thing is Rusty and Audrey the whole time act like real kids when that situation, which is I don't care. The best part is when they're in the West Town, there's Wyatt Earp, and Rusty just goes, he's wearing jogging shoes. Like they're not into this at all. Um, then we move to, I know there's probably a couple locations, but the big one we go to is Eddie's farm.
Yeah, that's such a classic scene, and Eddie is such a classic character sort of with this movie, and he's a lot more in Christmas Vacation, which it's great that they brought him back for that. But I think it's a great dynamic how they go to this house and like their kids are like kind of polar opposite to their kids, and like it's just a great dynamic.
Yeah, I think everyone remembers Eddie from Christmas Vacation with his wild antics. I mean, he has one of the funniest moments in that movie. The shitter's full. Um, but yeah, when you go back, or if you're someone who's seen Christmas Vacation and has seen this one, when you go into it, Eddie is a lot different character. Still very funny. Randy Quaid still plays it really funny, but it's not
Definitely.
as funny as they make him in Christmas Vacation. It's different. And I kind of like that. I mean, I probably prefer the Christmas Vacation, but the moment when he's talking to Clark and he's like, "You want a cold one?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." He just hands him the beer he was just drinking and opens a new one for himself. Like little things like that. And then of course we also get the grandma or Aunt
Yeah,
Edna.
and Edna.
Aunt Edna.
Like this movie is it gets dark at some places, which like I like, but like I've seen like there's comedies like bad ones, Road Trip, like RV. That's just like a family comedy. This is like it gets dark, like the whole thing with the animal abuse and
Oh, we'll get into that
Edna
for
in the
sure.
end. But
Uh
it Edna like she's funny and like it's great how like much she hates her and like she's a crazy old lady. So like the part she's in, they don't like overuse her, which I think is great for the movie.
yeah, she in the way that you're supposed to kind of like hate Clark, they write Aunt Edna to just be the most annoying person in the world. I
Yeah.
I am so lucky I don't have a grandma or family relative like this because I think this would be the one of like we don't want to spend any time with her. Like she's just, but she has really funny moments as well. I mean, the moment when they're all at the picnic table and it's the dog went all over the picnic basket. She is eating the sandwich,
Eats it
looks
anyways.
up, and then goes back to eating. Like that's really funny. And she also has a dog, which that's also funny too. When they go to like pet him, and he just attempts to bite Clark and Rusty every time they're just trying to like take the dog for a walk. Which then leads into one of the darkest moments in the movie, which I probably should have said this at the top. If you haven't seen this movie, we're gonna spoil it. But if you, so yeah,
Yeah.
um, so they're driving down the road, and a highway cop pulls him over. And he starts talking. He makes Clark get out of the car. And he starts talking about. He's like, "If I was in this uniform, I would like beat your ass or something like that." And then we find out Clark had, in his infinite wisdom, when he was putting all the luggage and everything away, he had tied Aunt Edna's dog to the bumper of the car and then forgot about the dog as they went driving for miles and miles and miles. And if you can't figure out what happened, Clark killed the dog accidentally.
Yeah. So this scene, like, it's not it's not funny, but like you don't like the dog. But even though you don't like the dog, you don't side with Clark for doing this. The dog's annoying, he's vicious, but it's like the moment you're like it's sort of the cringe factor that this movie does great. And that the scene with like it's a great part of the movie. I don't think you could take it out of the movie and have the same movie, but um it's not something I it's not my favorite part for sure.
Yeah, no, it's the moment when, if you hadn't realized it, this is a different comedy than you normally get from these types of comedies. Like, yeah, they'll go to these dark places. I mean, that's just insane that they kill a dog, and it's like you don't side with Clark because it's like you should have been smart enough to know to untie the dog, but it's one of those moments where like I don't know if I should laugh or be annoyed. Like it's and then of course we go to um, another stop, and just I bring it up just because there's a funny moment, which is the guy who is the manager of the stop is Brian Murray, who is Bill Murray's brother, who is in Christmas Vacation. He plays Clark's manager. So,
Mhm.
funny little tidbit there. And that's a really funny thing. And then, of course, we get the second dark moment of this movie, which, Linus, I'll let you explain this one.
So they're driving with Edna and Audrey and Rusty. They're sitting, and Anna. You think she's just sleeping on them, and they get annoyed. They're like, "You have her sleep on you this time." And then um Beverly D'Angelo, she does great. She's fine, just let her sleep. And Clark just blows it off that he doesn't care. Then they check and they find out she's dead, and they've been driving with this dead body in the car for long because they just think she's some sleeping old lady. But then they find out that they didn't kill her, but like she
She
just
just died.
died in their car.
Yeah. I just, again,
Crazy.
oh my, that is just an insane. I mean, they don't kill an old lady, but like, man, they don't pull any punches in this movie. You don't see this in a lot of comedies. Like, number one of my favorite comedies is Plane, Trains, and Automobiles. You never see anyone die with Steve Martin and John Candy in this movie. Like, it's crazy. But it's another thing where it's like, I don't know to laugh or, I mean, especially in the moment when they're taking her to her son's house and he's not home, and so they just leave her on the porch. And there is a really funny moment, which is Beverly D'Angelo going, Clark, we're gonna just leave her out here. It's raining. It's cold. And Clark just goes, it's not like that matters right now. What do you think of that moment? Do you
Yeah,
laugh
and
or do you go, no?
I laugh, but I kind of feel guilty about it, you know? Um, there's also the part they strap the dead body to the top of the
Yeah.
car while they're driving, which that's crazy. Like if they did that in real life, they would not get away with that. And they don't even go, they leave her out in the pouring rain and like they put an umbrella over her and they just leave her there because not that they don't really care about her, but Clark thinks that their vacation is a lot more important than that, which
Yeah.
it's funny and I laugh, but I don't really feel good about laughing in this scene.
Somehow that reminds me of a scene we had skipped over, which was the falling asleep at the wheel sequence,
Yeah.
which is one of the funniest sequences in the movie. If you haven't seen the film, basically, Clark has been driving for a while, and Ellen she goes, we should really pull over to a motel, and Clark's like, no, we're making a good time, we're making a good time. Clark falls asleep at the wheel and somehow drives through streets and lights and people's backyards and almost kills the family. Just a moment we should have talked about and we just skipped over. So then we continue on, and there's probably a couple of funny moments I'm forgetting, but the real big thing is we finally get to Wally World.
Yeah, it's such a great scene. And I love the line when they get there and he's like, "Oh, we're the first ones here." Like Clark, he's so ignorant and he wants he feels like he's so perfect and stuff. It's like, "Oh, we're the first ones here." That's
Yeah, to
great.
go
And then
along with
there's
that,
the great scene
I mean, have they never been
they're
to a
running.
theme park before? There's no first one there. You go to a theme park at opening, there have been like people who must have camped out there or something, because
Hmm.
I refuse to believe there is ever a Walt Disney World, a Universal, like Six Flags, anything like that, where there is at opening only one car. And then we get the great slow mo running with the amazing music, and then
Hmm.
we get the moose.
This is probably my favorite part of the movie where sorry, we're closed for renovation because they go through all that hell and then they get their Clark didn't go. He didn't call. He didn't check or anything. It's crazy nowadays because you buy your tickets online. But then he would just drive out there not knowing anything that they were closed for renovation, which is crazy to think about, and
Well,
all the hell they go through.
exactly. It's funny because you go, they went through all this hell of driving to get to this, and it's closed. And it is, again, you have to remember 1983. It's not like today where, like, I'm sure you can go on, like, WaltDisneyWorld.com and have a giant thing like, we're closed for the next 2 weeks. It was a little bit more difficult, but you're like, again, so funny because you go, only this could only happen to this family to go through. They kill a dog, have a family member die in their car on this vacation, only to get to their destination, have it be closed. And then Clark, the great thing, he punches the moose in the nose and just starts cursing. I mean, fucking A right, he owes us. So they get the family in the car and they drive to a gas station. Clark gets out and says, I have to go get some sporting goods. They go back to Waterworth and we get John Candy, who is just, if you don't know who John Candy is, look him up.
He's a great
One of the
actor.
funniest guys ever. And he plays a security guard, and again, he plays such a nice guy. Like, I love the moment when he's like, oh, I'm sorry, we're closed now. The moose outside should have told you. And Clark pulls out a gun. He pulls a gun on poor John Candy.
Yeah, and then like John Candy, he doesn't know what to do because I don't think that never happens that someone like forces them to ride an amusement park, which is something only probably Clark would do, which is so great about this movie. And like he forces them to ride the rides with him. And John Candy, he gets like all nauseous and he's scared. And Rusty's sitting next to this big security guard this whole time, and he's like trying to stop him from vomiting on the big rides. And it's just great
It's
humor.
hilarious. And it's so funny because you're like, only Clark would think of pulling a gun on a security guard. It's great. And then, of course, we find out it's not a real gun. It's just a BB gun. But that's a little bit too late because now we have the entirety of the LA SWAT force has swarmed in to Wally World. And just a great moment of just like, this small little family, just all these cops just pointing their guns, they're being put up, and we get Roy Wally, who is, for those of you who've never seen the movie and don't understand, this movie is based off of a short story in the National Lampoon magazine about a trip to Disney World where they go to Disney World, it's closed down and everything, and the father actually shoots Walt Disney in the leg. A lot darker than the movie, but basically the same thing. Roy Wally is the stand-in for Walt Disney. He gets there, and Clark has this great bonding moment where he talks to Roy Wally about taking his family on the trip and what it means. One of the funniest lines in the movie is in this scene, which is, now, Roy, could you imagine you drive your family all the way out there to Florida, and it's closed? Well, they don't close Florida. Yeah, I know that, but...
Yeah, that's such a great scene. The writing in this movie is great. Like the little lines like are just like mess ups, but they're actually really funny, which this movie, if I'm not mistaken. And
yes, he's the writer.
It's so well written, and I think it's brilliant. And then Roy Wally's like, I'm gonna let you guys go on this closed down park just because of this, because it's the relatable family aspect, even though no one, I mean, you can relate to Clark, but some of the stuff he does, like, I don't think anyone would normally do.
I don't know if my dad would ever, if we went to Disney World and it was closed, if he would go and buy a BB gun and like force people to take us on rides. But yeah, and so it's a fun ending because you like the family. You go, yeah, we succeeded. That's great. And so we're actually going to start, we've gotten to the end of the movie, so we're going to start wrapping up. So Linus, what are your sort of closing thoughts on National Lampoon's Vacation?
Well, this is probably my favorite rated R comedy of all time. I think it's amazing. It's so different than any other road trip movie because it's dark elements of the dog dying, the old lady dying, the gun pulling out. And it's just such a different movie that I had ever seen before. And I've gone on road trips before with my family. I've been to places like Disney World. And this is like the opposite of what you would expect from a road trip. And just the little things that happen, all the little mess ups that happen, all the little hell that they go through to get to this park. And it's closed. And I think that's amazing. And the whole movie just wraps up. And you want the relief of going to the park and having the good time for the family because you want them to succeed. And it doesn't work out, so more hijinks ensue, but it finally succeeds and you feel good with the final music, and it's a great ending, I think.
Yeah, it's a great ending, and again, like you said, it's one of the best R-rated comedies. One of the that's the thing I like about the Vacation series is it's so different from other comedy series. They never feel like they're ever retreading. Like a lot of comedy sequels are usually just the first film just done again in a new location. Like European Vacation is absolutely nothing like this. Christmas Vacation is nothing like the original. Vegas is nothing like it. And then, of course, we get to that 2015 thing, and that's when they tried to redo it, and we see what
Yeah.
happens. But don't go and see that. I would say see the first three. If you like that, see Vegas Vacation. It's probably the weakest of the four, but
It's not horrible, but
it's not the 2015 film, that's for sure.
I was so excited for that.
Hey, I'm right with you there, man. So for me, I really love this movie. Of course, I like the sequel a little bit more, but this is still one of the most original comedies out there. If you've never seen it, go watch it. And I know Chevy Chase has this thing of he's apparently a jerk in real life, but it kind of works for his character, actually, because Clark is kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Linus, is there anything you want to plug? YouTube page, Twitter, whatever, where the kids can find you.
Nothing too particular. You can find me on the Schmoville Facebook page. I'm on there. I'm pretty active. I don't host any podcasts or anything at the moment, but it's great being on this channel. So thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, and thanks for being here, man. Thank you for bringing the first comedy, and what a great one to start with. For me, you guys, as always, can find me at Currents_Matthew on Twitter, my YouTube channel, MattMovies611. The Schmo Down reactions every Tuesday right here on Take 3, and of course, the Movie Fandom show every other Saturday. All right, so thank you guys for joining, and remember to keep loving movies. See you later.